What's up, everyone? George Soto here. Hope all is well. If you've been following me online and kind of checking out my content and podcast and those sort of things, you know that I've been primarily focused on business topics, startups, all things in the startup ecosystem, and so on. But as I think about going into 2026 and kind of diving into some of my other passions, I can't help but think about spirituality. Yes, I love music too, and I will dive in and dive back into music because music is certainly something that's always been part of my identity and my heart and my soul and how I express myself. And I actually understand that music is so tied to a spiritual connection as well. That's a topic perhaps to tackle another day. But as I think about moving into 2026, and I gotta say, if you look around and you literally just turn on the TV, even mainstream TV now, you'll start to see a lot of these more metaphysical, more esoteric topics, right? So you look at the topic of extraterrestrials, UAPs, UFOs, whatever they call them these days, now being articulated. You think about the idea of disclosure, right? And in my mind, it's happened, right? Like we literally have high-ranking officials, governments talking about a topic that would have been laughed at even 5 or 6 years ago, right? If you really think about it, certainly, uh, in my life, I haven't seen the topic be taken as seriously as it is now, and deemed as a legitimate thing. So as I think about like some of the passions, spirituality, I think is very tied to this metaphysical kind of realm of content or of thought or exploration. And I'm gonna take a chance here and dive into some of these topics in a much deeper way. I did attempt to start a content series or a podcast earlier, I would say probably 3 years ago or so, give or take. I don't know, time flies, 3, 4 years ago, about spirituality, science, and technology and those sort of things. And I had a physicist from Harvard who was at the time talking about a interstellar object that had come into our uh, solar system or galaxy. I'm still trying to figure out these kind of definitions here. Um, a guy named Avi Loeb, and what was interesting was that now Avi is like a really popular person talking about interstellar objects and extraterrestrials and all this. And Avi, by the way, is like a Harvard professor. This is not some like wacko sitting at the side of the street with a sign up in Times Square, right? Like this is a legitimate academic individual from a legitimate university. Harvard, right? Enough said there. So that was kind of my attempt to do that. I ended up getting wrapped into, I think, my old patterns, which are all about like startups and business and all that, because that's my comfort zone. But I am really gonna follow this desire to want to start to dive into some of these other topics. And again, the spiritual kind of piece and all the stuff all around that kind of like esoteric set of topics. Again, I'll dive into some music and things like that. But for today, I just wanted to open up the discussion around like, what are y'all seeing out there? Like, for me, again, you turn on the TV, you see, these topics about UAPs and disclosure and everything happening. Like, I have not had as many spiritual conversations with just like random people or like people in the business setting as I have the last couple of years. Now, it may be that this whole, COVID thing absolutely shifted something, right? If you think about it, such a drastic or dramatic, experience that we had as a species had to rattle us, right? Had to have us say or ask ourselves, like, what is this all about? Like, this system that I live in, this society that I live in, this, kind of pattern that I follow every day, what is this all about, right? And what's interesting is, like, this what they say oftentimes is this spiritual path is oftentimes a very disruptive thing to a person, and it can really kind of drive folks, crazy in some cases, right? And I think that we had such an insane experience, a couple years ago, and we're seeing sort of the symptoms of that now in society and in all areas. And so I do think it feels like there's something that I was gonna say coming, but no, it's here. Like we are experiencing these really interesting things. Again, like I said a second ago, I've talked to so many people who are so interested in stuff that we would have considered alternative topics, right? Spirituality, metaphysical things like that, energy healing. Like, people, we used to say, oh, that person's energy is bad or whatever, right? Or like, I didn't feel good. I think that now we're starting to take those types of things seriously. And are they new topics? I would argue that they're not. I would argue that we forgot certain things as a collective species, certainly in like certainly in Western, right? Modern Western society. If you look at indigenous cultures, they've been talking about ETs and our brothers and sisters in the stars and all those sort of things for such a long time. And this medium here, the internet, has certainly had its great stuff and have certainly had its not so great stuff. But like, I think that's probably the fabric of reality, right? Where you have kind of two sides to, or multiple sides to something, and some of them might feel heavier, some of them might feel lighter. But I think that the idea here is that we are returning back to understanding or remembering certain things. That's kind of the theme that I keep seeing as I observe around, and I, again, listen to a bunch of content, absorb a lot of stuff, talk to people offline, right? There's just this deep curiosity and this deep yearning that I think I feel from people. I certainly feel myself. So I'm going to kind of end this video saying a couple of things. You can expect content coming from this channel and from my other social media channels that are going to be mixed in with, we'll see how much of the content is kind of this metaphysical sort of spiritual content versus the business stuff. I am still very much a startup person and in the business world, and that's how I generate income, and as a consultant and as an entrepreneur in the B2B startup space, etc. But again, this is going to be more something that is coming from a passion and from my yearning to want to actually like speak my truth in this sense, right? And not be scared of like exploring topics, again, that might have been taboo or deemed kind of weird, even though I don't think I really have cared too much about being too weird. But I guess there's a certain level of professionalism that you try to kind of maintain as a business person. But my question to you out there is, like, what are y'all feeling out there, right? Like, do you sense this curiosity? Do you look around and say, holy shit, like, we're literally talking about aliens, like there's Senate meetings, like there's something there. Maybe some of y'all out there have seen stuff in the sky. Maybe you've had other experiences that were more personal. I mean, there's the abduction phenomenon. There's so much out there that is within the realm of not just possibilities, but are like literally happening to people all the time. So I'd love to, in the comments below, I'd love to hear your experiences out there, what are some of the topics that maybe you want me to cover with folks so I can go out and also start to talk to other people, maybe, relaunch that podcast, diving into these topics, and I can maybe look for folks that can hone in into some of the topics that we care about, that y'all care about, because this is really about community, right? And sharing each other's experiences and growing and evolving into what looks like a very interesting future. It's already been a very interesting past and a very interesting present, but we go into 2026 here very shortly. This is December 25th, 2025. It's Christmas Day. I'm sitting here with my wife. I took a quick break to make this video. I'm gonna go back out on the back porch and hang out here in a second. But I was just so inspired to want to put this message out there. Again, ask y'all about your experiences. Again, comment below. Let me know, what you're feeling. Does this resonate with you? I know this, some of my thoughts here are kind of scattered at times because I'm so inspired and there's so much to talk about. But I hope it resonates with you. I hope there's something that you were able to hold on to and get excited about. But I think that we all know collectively that our species is moving into something really unique moving forward. I don't have to tell you as a business person the impact that artificial intelligence or AI is having as a business person every day. You as consumers, you're probably seeing it all the time and every day. We're all using ChatGPT and the plethora of other AIs out there. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and wrap up here and have a great, great Christmas and New Year. And let's see what this 2026 awesomeness will bring and how we're going to continue to evolve as a species, as a community, as a planet. Have a great night.